The Galactic Council had watched Earth for a very long time. They had special machines that could see across the stars. They pointed these machines at the small blue planet and waited. They waited for hundreds of years. Not every species in the galaxy had done the same thing when they first traveled to the stars. They built weapons. They built warships. They came with fire and anger and the desire to conquer. The Council had seen it happen many times. The Vrikari came with their massive dreadnoughts. The Hollow World people came with their crystal cannons. Even the peaceful Thren, who were made of gas and light, had brought weapons when they first arrived. So the Council prepared for humanity. They built defensive stations. They positioned their fleets. They created 100 different plans for 100 different attacks. Ambassador Vrix, a tall being made of living crystal, was chosen to meet the humans first. He had survived 3 wars between species. He had talked to beings of pure energy. He was not afraid of anything. When the human ship appeared in Council space, every alarm went off. Every weapon pointed at the small vessel. Every soldier stood ready. The human ship was not very big. It was silver and white, and it moved slowly. It did not fire any weapons. It did not send any threats. It simply floated there, waiting. Ambassador Vrix boarded the ship with 20 guards. His crystal body glowed with nervous energy. His translation device was ready. His emergency escape plan was memorized. The door opened. A small human child stood there. She had black hair and brown eyes. She was maybe 7 years old. In her arms, she held a fat orange creature with fur and a long tail. Vrix stopped walking. His guards stopped too. Nobody moved. "Hello," the child said. "I am Yuna. This is Bori. He is my cat." The orange creature looked at Vrix with yellow eyes. It did not seem afraid. It did not seem impressed. It yawned, showing tiny sharp teeth, and then it made a strange sound. A rumbling, vibrating sound that came from deep inside its body. Vrix had heard many sounds in his long life. Explosions, screams, the dying sounds of stars. But he had never heard anything like this. "What is that noise?" he asked. "Bori is purring," Yuna said. "He does that when he is happy. Do you want to pet him?" Before Vrix could answer, more humans appeared. A man and a woman walked up behind the child. They were smiling. The man had kind eyes and messy hair. The woman had a calm face and gentle hands. "I am Taiho," the man said. "This is my wife Jiwan, and you have already met our daughter Yuna." Vrix looked at his guards. His guards looked back at him. Nobody knew what to do. "Where are your weapons?" Vrix asked. Taiho tilted his head. "Weapons? We did not bring weapons. This is a science ship. We are explorers. All species bring weapons when they first travel to the stars." "Do they?" Jiwan asked. She seemed surprised. "That seems like a strange choice. We brought seeds, and music, and art, and cats. Cats. Like Bori." Yuna held up the orange creature. It continued to purr. "We have 17 cats on the ship. Bori is the best one, but do not tell the others I said that." Vrix felt his crystal mind struggling to understand. He had prepared for missiles, for threats, for demands of territory and resources. He had not prepared for a small child with a purring predator in her arms. "You brought predators?" he asked. "Onto your ship? With children?" "Bori is not dangerous," Yuna said. She scratched behind the cat's ears. Bori closed his eyes and purred louder. "He mostly sleeps, and eats, and sits on my homework." The guards lowered their weapons. It was hard to point a gun at a child holding a fluffy orange animal. It felt wrong in a way none of them could explain. Captain Hyan arrived next. He was an older man with gray in his hair and calm in his eyes. He walked with the confidence of someone who had seen many things and feared very few of them. "Welcome to our ship," he said to Vrix. "I am the captain. Would you like some tea?" "Tea. It is a drink. Made from plants. Very calming." Vrix had negotiated with empires. He had faced down war fleets. But this simple offer of a plant drink confused him more than any threat ever had. "I would like to understand," he said slowly. "Your species has achieved faster than light travel. You have crossed the void between stars. And you brought this?" He pointed at Bori. "Of course," Jiwon said. "Yuna refused to leave without him. And you allowed this? A child made the decision?" Taiho smiled. "You have never met a 7-year-old who wants something. It is easier to move mountains than to change their minds." Yuna walked up to Vrix. She was so small compared to his tall crystal form. Her head barely reached his waist. But she looked up at him without fear. "You look sparkly," she said. "Like the decorations my grandmother puts on the tree during winter festival." "Are you made of glass?" "Crystal," Vrix corrected. "Living crystal. I am from the hollow worlds." "That sounds lonely. Is it hollow inside you too?" The question was simple. A child's question. But it hit Vrix somewhere deep. Somewhere he had forgotten existed. "Sometimes," he said. "Yes, sometimes it is." Yuna nodded as if this made perfect sense. "Bori helps when I feel empty inside. He sits on my chest and purrs. The sound fills up the hollow spaces." She held the cat toward him. "Do you want to try?" Vrix looked at the orange creature. Bori looked back at him. The cat's eyes held no judgment, no fear. Just a calm acceptance that seemed to say, "Yes, you may worship me now." Very slowly, very carefully, Vrix reached out one crystal finger and touched the cat's head. Bori leaned into the touch. The purring grew louder. Something in Vrix's ancient crystal heart cracked. Not in a bad way. In the way that ice cracks in spring, letting water flow again after a long winter. He reported back to the council that night. His message was short. "The humans have arrived. They brought no weapons. They brought seeds and music and small furry predators that make a healing sound. I do not understand them. I do not think any of us will. But I am no longer afraid. The galaxy would never be the same." News traveled fast in the galaxy. Faster than light. Faster than thought. Within one day, every species in the Galactic Council knew about the humans. But nobody could agree on what the news meant. The military leaders said it was a trick. No species came to the stars without weapons. The humans must be hiding something. Maybe the cats were weapons. Maybe they exploded. Maybe they released poison. The military leaders ordered more scans of the human ship. The scans showed nothing dangerous. The ship carried food supplies, water, recyclers, medical equipment, art, supplies, musical instruments, 17 cats of various sizes and colors. No bombs, no missiles, no secret weapons. This made the military leaders even more suspicious. The scientists were fascinated. They wanted to study everything. The human bodies, the human food, the human music, and especially the cats. One scientist, a being made of pure energy named Lom, spent 3 days observing Bori. He wrote 17 reports. His conclusion was strange. "The cat does nothing useful," Lom wrote. "It sleeps for 16 hours each day. It demands food constantly. It knocks small objects off tables for no reason. It ignores commands. It shows affection only when it wants something. And yet the humans love it deeply. I do not understand. I must study more." Lom was not the only confused one. Yoonji was a young Korean woman on the human ship. Her job was to talk to the alien species and help them understand humanity. She had studied languages her whole life. She spoke 12 human languages and was learning 3 alien ones. She was very good at explaining things, but some things were hard to explain. "Let me understand," said Counselor Thren. He was a being made of gas and light. He floated in a special container because he could not survive in normal air. His voice came through a machine that turned his light pulses into words. "You keep predators in your homes." "Yes," Yoonji said. "We call them pets." "And these predators do not try to kill you?" "Well, sometimes Bori bites Yuna's ankles, but not in a serious way. He bites the child, and this is acceptable?" Yoonji thought about this. "It is more like a love bite. A small one. He does it when he wants to play." Thren's lights flickered in confusion. "Your predators bite your children as a form of affection?" "When you say it like that, it sounds strange." "It is strange. Everything about your species is strange." Yoonji could not argue with that. The diplomats were having an even harder time. Ambassador Vrix had called a special meeting to discuss the humans. Every species sent a representative. The great hall was full of beings of all shapes and sizes. Crystal people, gas people, beings with tentacles, beings with wings, beings with no bodies at all, just floating minds in protective shells. "We must decide what to do with the humans," Vrix announced. "They do not fit any of our categories. They are not conquerors. They are not traitors. They are not refugees. They are simply here." "Perhaps they want something," suggested a tentacle being named Crix. "All species want something." We asked them what they want. They said they want to make friends. The hall went silent. This was not a normal answer. Species wanted territory, resources, power, respect. Nobody just wanted friends. "It must be a trick," Crix insisted. "I spent 3 days with them," Rick said. "The child showed me her rock collection. The captain told me about his grandmother's garden. The scientist named Taiho explained how plants grow on Earth for 2 hours. If this is a trick, it is the most boring trick in galactic history. What about the cats?" Someone asked. "What about them? Maybe the cats are the real intelligence. Maybe they control the humans." Everyone looked at each other. This was an interesting theory. Back on the human ship, Bori sat on Captain Hyon's navigation charts. The captain needed those charts. Bori did not care. Bori was comfortable. "Bori," Hyan said gently, "I need to work." Bori looked at him. Then Bori closed his eyes and began to purr. Hyan sighed. He worked around the cat. "Maybe the aliens are right." Jiwon laughed from across the room. "Maybe the cats do control us." "That is ridiculous," Hyan said. Then he realized he was doing his work in an uncomfortable position just to avoid moving a sleeping cat. He laughed too. Yuna did not care about diplomatic confusion. She was 7 years old. She had more important things to do. She had discovered that the Hollow World people, like Ambassador Vrix, had never seen crayons before. She had given Vrix a box of crayons and some paper. Now she was teaching him to draw. "You are making the sun too small," she said seriously. "The sun should be in the corner, and it should have a face. All suns have faces." Vrix looked at his drawing. He had tried to make an accurate representation of a yellow dwarf star. Yuna had added a smiley face to it. "Suns do not have faces," he said. "How do you know? Have you ever asked the sun?" Vrix opened his mouth to explain astronomy. Then he closed it again. The child had a point. He had never asked the sun. "Draw a cat next," Yuna instructed. "Cats are easy. They are just circles with ears." Vrix, The ancient ambassador who had survived 3 wars and negotiated peace between dying empires carefully drew a circle with 2 triangles on top. Like this? Eunice studied it. The ears are too pointy. And you forgot the whiskers. But it is a good first try. We will practice more tomorrow. I have a diplomatic meeting tomorrow. After the meeting then. Drawing is important. My mom says art helps us feel things we cannot say with words. Rix looked at his simple cat drawing. He thought about the wars he had seen, the friends he had lost, the things he had never been able to say. Maybe the child was right. Maybe art could help. The galaxy had expected humanity to bring war machines. Instead, they brought crayons and cats and a 7-year-old art teacher. Nobody knew what to do with this. But slowly, very slowly, they were starting to learn. Not everyone in the galaxy was confused by the humans. Some were angry. Some saw opportunity. And some wanted to prove that the old ways were still the best ways. The Valkyrie Empire was the most powerful military force in the galaxy. They were a reptilian species, tall and strong, covered in thick scales that could stop most weapons. They had conquered 12 star systems. They had never lost a war. Their emperor sat on a throne made from the weapons of defeated enemies. When the Valkyrie heard about the humans, they laughed. A species without weapons? Commander Grath said to his warriors, a species that brings children and small animals to first contact? They are weak. They are prey. They are ours. Grath was the finest warrior in the Valkyrie fleet. He stood 7 feet tall. His scales were dark green, almost black, marked with the scars of 100 battles. His eyes were yellow and cold. He had killed more enemies than he could count. He took his fastest warship and intercepted the human vessel near the Fidget Andromeda transit point. It was far from the Council's protection, far from any help. The Valkyrie ship was 10 times larger than the human vessel. It bristled with weapons. Its hull was armored with the strongest metal in the galaxy. When it dropped out of faster-than-light travel, it appeared like a monster from the dark. Human vessel, Grath announced over the communication channel. You are now prisoners of the Valkyrie Empire. Surrender immediately. If you fight, you will die. If you surrender, some of you may live as slaves. On the human ship, alarms blared. Crew members rushed to their stations. Captain Hyan stood on the bridge, looking at the massive warship on his screen. What do we do? Asked a young crew member. We have no weapons. Hyan was calm. We talked to them. They want to make us slaves. Then we convince them not to. The crew thought their captain had gone crazy, but they trusted him. They had no other choice. Grath teleported onto the human ship with 20 warriors. They appeared on the bridge in flashes of blue light, weapons raised, ready for anything. The humans stepped back. Some looked scared. Some looked confused. None of them had weapons. Grath walked forward slowly. His claws clicked on the metal floor. His warriors spread out behind him, covering every corner of the room. Which of you is the leader? Grath demanded. Captain Hyan stepped forward. I am the captain of this vessel. Grath looked him over. The human was old, small, soft. He had no claws, no scales, no visible weapons. He would break easily. Kneel, Grath commanded. Kneel before the Valkyrie Empire. Hyan did not kneel. He stood straight and met Grath's eyes without fear. I would rather not, he said politely. My knees are not what they used to be. Old age, you understand. Grath was not used to being refused. You have no weapons, no soldiers, no way to fight. Why do you not fear me? Should I fear you? I could kill everyone on this ship. You could, Hyan agreed, but you have not. You are still talking to me. That tells me something. Before Grath could respond, the door to the bridge opened. Everyone turned to look. Yuna walked in. She was wearing pajamas with small stars on them. Her hair was messy from sleep. In her arms, she carried Bori. Yuna! Jiwan tried to reach her daughter, but a Rikari warrior blocked her path. Yuna did not seem to notice the danger. She looked up at the massive reptilian warriors. She looked at their weapons. She looked at Commander Grath, the most feared warrior in the galaxy. You are very loud, she said. You woke up Bori. Grath stared at her. In all his years of conquest, no one had ever complained about his volume during an invasion. Child, he growled. Do you know who I am? No. Who are you? I am Commander Grath of the Rikari Empire. I have conquered worlds. I have destroyed fleets. I have killed thousands of enemies in battle. Yuna considered this information. You seem angry. Are you angry? I am not angry. I am powerful. You sound angry. Yuna walked closer to him. Every warrior in the room tensed. Every human held their breath. But Yuna kept walking until she stood right in front of the massive commander. When I am angry, Bori helps me feel better. Do you want to hold him? She held up the cat. Bori looked at Grath with calm yellow eyes. The cat did not care that Grath was a warrior. The cat did not care about the Rikari Empire. The cat cared about being comfortable, and right now, being held by a small child in pajamas was comfortable. Bori yawned. His small pink tongue curled. His tiny white teeth showed for a moment. Then he settled back in Yuna's arms and began to purr. Grath had faced death many times. He had never felt fear. But something about this moment made him uncertain. The child was not afraid of him. The cat was not afraid of him. They looked at him like he was just another person, not a monster. No one had ever looked at him that way. Why are you not afraid? He asked quietly. Why would I be afraid? Yuna replied. You have not hurt anyone yet. Maybe you will not hurt anyone at all. Maybe you just need a friend. I do not need friends. I have warriors. That sounds lonely. Grath opened his mouth to argue. Then he stopped. He thought about his ship, his empty quarters, the warriors who followed his orders but never talked to him about anything else, the long nights between battles when there was nothing but silence. It is lonely, he admitted. He did not know why he was telling this to a human child, but the words came out anyway. It is very lonely. Yuna nodded. Then you should definitely hold Bori. He is very good at lonely. She held the cat up higher. Bori's purring filled the silent bridge. Grath, conqueror of worlds, looked at the small orange creature. His warriors watched in confusion. The humans watched in hope. Very slowly, Grath reached out his clawed hands. Very carefully, he took the cat. Bori settled into his arms like he belonged there. The purring continued. The sound vibrated through Grath's scales, through his armor, through something deeper that he had forgotten he still had. For the first time in many years, Commander Grath did not feel like conquering anything. He just felt warm. The standoff lasted 3 hours, but it was not a normal standoff. Commander Grath sat on a cargo crate in the corner of the human ship. Bori was asleep in his lap. Yuna sat next to him, explaining the different types of clouds on Earth. His warriors stood around looking confused. They had come to conquer, and now their commander was learning about weather patterns. The fluffy ones are called cumulus, Yuna said. They look like cotton. Sometimes I see shapes in them. Bori does too. He watches them through the window. Grath looked down at the sleeping cat. He watches clouds? He watches everything. Cats are very curious. My mom says curiosity is how you learn things. Captain Hyan approached slowly. He carried 2 cups. Tea, he said, offering one to Grath. I thought you might be thirsty. Grath took the cup. He was not thirsty, but he took it anyway. The warm liquid smelled strange, sweet and bitter at the same time. "Why are you being kind to me?" Grath asked. "I came to conquer you, to take your ship, to make you slaves." "You came to do those things," Hyan agreed. He sat down on another crate. "But you have not done them. You are sitting here with a cat in your lap, learning about clouds. Actions matter more than intentions. My actions have been terrible. I have destroyed cities, killed families, taken everything from entire planets. Yes, you have done terrible things." Hyan did not lie. He did not pretend. He simply said the truth. "The question is, what will you do next?" Grath was silent for a long time. The cat purred. The ship hummed. Somewhere in the background, his warriors were talking to the human crew. One of them was looking at pictures of Earth. Another was trying a strange food called chocolate. "I do not understand your species," Grath finally said. "We scanned your ship before we boarded. No weapons. No defensive systems. Just scientists and artists and children. And cats. Many cats. 17, Yuna confirmed. Bori is the biggest. Machi is the smallest. She is all white with blue eyes. Why did you come to the stars like this? Without protection? Without power?" Hyan thought of the question. It deserved a real answer. "We almost did not," he said. 50 years ago, humanity was building war machines like everyone else. We had weapons that could crack planets, ships that could darken suns. We were ready to conquer the galaxy just like the Vrakari. What stopped you? We used the weapons on ourselves first." Grath looked up sharply. "You attacked your own species?" "We have always attacked our own species. We had thousands of wars throughout our history. Big ones, small ones. Wars over land. Wars over ideas. Wars over nothing at all." Hyan's voice grew quiet. 50 years ago, we almost destroyed ourselves completely. We came very close to extinction. What saved you?" Hyan smiled and nodded at Yuna. "Children. Children and the people who loved them. Parents who looked at their kids and thought, we cannot leave them a universe of war. We have to try something different. So you put away your weapons?" "We did not put them away. We still have them, hidden, protected. If something truly threatened humanity, we could fight." Hyan's eyes met Grath's. For a moment, the warrior saw something behind the captain's calm face. Something hard. Something dangerous. "We are not weak, Commander. We simply chose not to lead with strength." Grath understood. The humans were not prey. They were predators who had decided to be gentle. That was much more frightening. "Why cats?" he asked. "Of all the things you could have brought, why these small creatures?" Yuna answered before her father could. "Because cats teach us important things." "What things?" "How to be soft. How to rest. How to love someone even when they knock your water glass off the table for no reason." She scratched Bari's ears. The cat purred louder without waking up. Cats do not try to be anything except what they are. They do not pretend. They do not lie. When Bori loves me, I know it is real. When he is angry, I know that is real too. They teach you honesty? They teach us to be ourselves. My mom says that is the hardest thing to learn. Grath looked at the small creature in his lap. Bori was completely relaxed, completely trusting. He had fallen asleep in the arms of a conqueror without any fear. I have never held anything this soft, Grath said quietly. Vrakari do not have pets. We do not have art. We do not have this. He gestured around at the human ship, at the pictures on the walls, at the plants growing in the corner, at the child sitting beside him without fear. You could, Hyan said. There is nothing stopping you except choice. The Empire expects conquest, victory, power. The Empire is not here. Only you are here. Only you can choose what happens next. Grath thought about his home world. The gray buildings. The endless military drills. The children raised to be warriors from birth. He thought about his own childhood, which had been nothing like Yuna's. No clouds to watch. No cats to hold. No one to teach him about softness. I do not know how to be anything except a warrior, he admitted. Yuna patted his arm. Her small hand rested on his scales for just a moment. That is okay. You can learn. I am still learning too. Everyone is still learning. What are you learning? Right now, I am learning that scary things are not always bad. You looked very scary when you came onto our ship. But now you are holding my cat and drinking tea. That is not scary at all. Grath made a sound. It took him a moment to realize he was laughing. He had not laughed in years. The sound was rough and strange, like an engine starting after a long sleep. You are a very unusual child, he told Yuna. My mom says that too. She says I get it from my dad. He once tried to teach a fish to do tricks. Did the fish learn? No. Fish are not very smart. But the important thing is that Dad tried. Trying is how you find out what is possible. Grath looked at Captain Hyan, at Jiwan, who's watching from across the room with tears in her eyes, and his warriors, who were now sitting with the human crew, sharing food and stories. I do not know what is possible anymore, Grath said. Everything I believed is changing. Hyan nodded. That is the beginning of wisdom. What do I do now? Whatever you choose. The invasion is over. What comes next is up to you. Grath looked down at Bori. The cat opened one eye, looked at him, and then closed it again. Total trust. Total peace. It was the most powerful thing Grath had ever experienced. I think, he said slowly, I would like to learn more about clouds. Yuna smiled. It was the brightest thing Grath had ever seen. I can teach you, she said. But first, you should try the chocolate. It is very good. Almost as good as cats. The conqueror of 12 star systems took a piece of chocolate from a child's hand. He ate it. His eyes went wide. It was very good. Almost as good as cats. 10 years changed everything. Yuna was 17 now. She stood tall, with her mother's sharp eyes and her father's kind smile. She wore the uniform of the Galactic Diplomatic Academy, the first human ever accepted. On her shoulder sat a small orange kitten, the great-grandchild of Bori. Bori himself had passed away 3 years ago. He died peacefully in his sleep on Yuna's bed. She had cried for days. The whole galaxy had sent messages of sympathy. Bori had become famous. His picture hung in the Galactic Council Hall. There was even a statue of him on the Vrikari homeworld. But Bori's real legacy was not statues or pictures. It was change. The Vrikari Empire still built war machines. Their dreadnoughts were still the most powerful in the galaxy. But now those ships carried other things too. Medical supplies for disaster zones. Teachers for developing worlds. Agricultural equipment for planets struggling to grow food, and cats. Many, many cats. Commander Grath was now Ambassador Grath. He had returned to Vrikari Prime after that day on the human ship. He had brought with him a kitten, one of Bori's children. He had named the kitten Buell, which meant star in the Korean language Yuna had taught him. The Vrikari Emperor had been furious at first. Grath had failed to conquer the humans. He had returned without slaves or treasure. He had returned with a small furry animal and strange ideas about softness and peace. But then Buell had climbed onto the Emperor's throne and fallen asleep in his lap. The Emperor, who had conquered more worlds than any Vrikari in history, found himself unable to move. He sat there for 3 hours, waiting for the kitten to wake up. When his advisors asked why, he could not explain. He simply knew that moving would disturb something precious. Within a year, every noble family on Vakari Prime wanted a cat. Within 5 years, cats were everywhere. The warrior species that had never known softness suddenly could not imagine life without purring creatures demanding attention. Other things changed too. The Vakari opened their first art school. Grath himself taught there sometimes. He was not very good at drawing, but Yuna had taught him that trying was what mattered. His students created paintings and sculptures that confused traditional Vakari. But the young people loved them. Music came next. Human musicians visited Vakari Prime and taught the warriors to play instruments. The sound of Vakari war drums mixed with human guitars created something new, something beautiful. The first Vakari human concert sold out in minutes, but the biggest change was the children. Vakari children had always been trained for war from birth. There were no games, no toys, no softness. They learned to fight before they learned to laugh. Now there were playgrounds. There were schools that taught more than combat. There were parents who held their children and told them they were loved, not because they were strong, but because they existed. Grath had started it. He had visited a human school and watched the children play. He had seen Yuna running with her friends, laughing, falling down, and getting up again. He had seen parents hugging their children for no reason at all. He had gone home and hugged his own child for the first time. Now, 10 years later, Yuna stood before the Galactic Council. Every species was represented. Crystal beings and gas beings. Creatures with tentacles and creatures with wings. The Vakari sat in their section, Ambassador Grath in the center. A gray kitten slept on his shoulder, Boyle's latest descendant. "Thank you for inviting me to speak," Yuna said. Her voice was steady, confident. The scared little girl who had first held Bori up to a Vakari warrior was now a young woman who commanded respect. The council wished to understand humanity, said the council chair. A being of pure thought who spoke through a mechanical body. "We have watched your species for 10 years now. We have seen you change the galaxy without firing a single weapon. We do not understand how this is possible." Yuna smiled. "May I tell you a story?" "Please." "When I was 7 years old, a Vakari warship attacked our ship. The commander was the most frightening being I had ever seen. He had conquered worlds, killed thousands. He came to make us slaves." The council listened. Even Grath listened, though he had lived this story. I was very scared, but my cat was not scared. Bori just looked at this massive warrior like he was any other person. And I thought, if Bori is not afraid, maybe I do not need to be afraid either. She paused. The kitten on her shoulder meowed softly. I offered to let him hold my cat. That was all. I did not fight him. I did not threaten him. I just offered him something soft in a universe that had only ever given him hardness. And that changed everything. The council chair asked. Not immediately. Change takes time. But it started something. It showed that there was another way. A different path. A choice that nobody had offered the Vakari before. She looked at Grath. He looked back at her with eyes that were still yellow. Still fierce, but also warm now. Gentle. "We humans have a saying," Yuna continued. "We say that you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. It means that kindness works better than cruelty. Softness works better than hardness. Love works better than fear. But you are not weak," said a Vakari counselor. "We have learned that humans can fight. Your history is full of war. Yes, we can fight. We are very good at fighting. But we learned something important. Winning a war does not mean you have won anything worth having. The planets we bombed remained broken. The enemies we killed became martyrs. The children who grew up in war only learned more war." She held up the kitten from her shoulder. It blinked at the council with curious green eyes. So we tried something different. We brought cats instead of cannons. We brought music instead of missiles. We brought children instead of soldiers. And we discovered something amazing. What? The council asked together. That everyone is tired of fighting. Everyone, in every species, has a hollow place inside that war cannot fill. When we offered something different, something soft, something kind, people reached for it like they were drowning and we had thrown them a rope. She set the kitten down. It walked across the council table, sniffing at different delegates. A crystal being extended a finger. The kitten rubbed against it and purred. 10 years ago, the Vakari were the most feared species in the galaxy. Now they run the largest disaster relief organization in known space. They still have their warships, but they use them to protect the helpless instead of conquering them. All because one warrior held one cat and remembered how to feel. Grath stood. His voice was rough with emotion. She is right. I was the most powerful warrior in the Empire. I had everything a Vakari could want. And I was empty, hollow, alone. Then a human child gave me a small orange creature that purred, and I understood that I had been living wrong my entire life. He looked at Yuna with something like love, like family. Humanity did not conquer us. They saved us. They saved us by being soft in a galaxy that only knew how to be hard. The council was silent. Then, from somewhere in the hall, a sound began. A deep, rumbling vibration. It was Grath, making the sound cats make when they are happy. Purring. Other Vakari joined in. Then other species. Each one making their own version of the sound. A chorus of contentment filling the great hall. Yuna stood at the center of it all. She thought about Bori, sleeping peacefully in whatever place good cats go when they die. She thought about her parents, who had been brave enough to bring a child and a cat to first contact. She thought about all the small choices that had led to this moment. The galaxy had expected humanity to bring war machines. They had brought a cat instead, and that had made all the binaries difference. They came to the stars carrying no weapons. And that is exactly why they won. Galactic Historical Archives, entry 7924.